This is the Slots and Sockets Podcast, episode number 49. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my non-paper launched partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin.
Happy Tuesday to you, Turbo Penguin. How you doing?
Same to you. Doing good.
Good.
So I woke up and we kind of had an idea where we would see pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Not pricing, but performance for 5070 vanilla.
Yeah.
And I think this is to no surprise. It absolutely is garbage.
Yeah, I mean, for what they're asking for, especially compared to last generation, the 5070 is meh at best.
At best, I feel like I think anyone who buys this is going to instantly regret not having 16 gigs of RAM.
Yep.
I think that they're going to instantly regret, because I think as we start pushing more and more RAM usage in games, and even then, you can start to see in the reviews as you go up into higher RAM usage where it's clipping out, where you sit there and realize, holy crap, 12 gigs was totally not enough, because it's sitting here at a performance, and then it's sitting here and it goes to 1440p and it moves down a little bit, and then you hit 4K and it's just gone. Yep. And it's oh, it ran out. And you can see it with the frame pacing, because it's working so hard to keep up to stuff with the lack of RAM. Plus and I don't know, I think one of the things that we've seen with this generation is, and it's hard for reviewers to properly put this into words, but multi-frame generation is not the same from card to card.
Right.
And the performance, when they showed 5090 and multi-frame gen versus the 5080 and the 70 Ti and the vanilla 70, as you go down the stack, multi-frame generation really degrades on how efficient it is.
Yep. As
you go down this performance stack. And I would make the argument, even then, the 5090, the reviews on that were, I would say, mixed. And I'm probably being generous there, because a lot of people it sort of is good and bad at the same time. I can see how some people might think it's smoother, but at the same time, it's not. And look, guys, anytime you're adding fake frames, the fake frames are fake. They're not going to be correct. So if I'm going to add 4 fake frames for every 1 real frame, that means that I'm just going to see weird stuff. And no surprise.
And some of that weird stuff showed up in Gamers and Nexus testing with, if I recall correctly, when they turned on DLSS with multi-frame gen, they saw huge spikes in total system latency, not just in graphics latency.
No surprise.
The card just doesn't have the horsepower.
And then the 70 really sees it. You can see it noticeably different in the 70. My guess, and I'm just going to throw this out there, unless they're going to have some patchwork upgrades, we might see multi-frame gen in the 70, or maybe just the 60 have some limitations, only 2 or 3, not the full 4. It seems like maybe they're going to look at this and say it's a beta for 4 frame for the 70, and say it's really only supported for 2 or 3.
Well, see, and that kind of negates the whole purpose of multi-frame gen at that point, because the idea is, on a lower spec card, you should be getting access to higher quality visuals and better frame rates, but you don't actually get that.
No, you don't. You don't get better visuals. You get crappier images.
Yeah.
And so, look, it's really, really simple. If you want to go faster, you either need to have more horsepower
Yep.
or go to a smaller resolution.
Yep.
You either need to get a faster video card or go down to a lower resolution. And if your card can't do it, making fake frames isn't fixing it. And then turning on fake frames to make your counter go from 17 to 100 isn't giving you a better gameplay. It's still going to look like dog crap
Yep.
at 17. It's
And
just going to,
if anything, it might be
it's going to
worse gameplay.
have, well, yeah, because you're going to have all the artifacting and the weird thing. I mean, how many feet are you going to have a person have? 6, 12, 18 feet?
Right. Well, and
You
not
know,
just that, but also the additional system latency, because the something we didn't necessarily see on the 5080 and 5090 was just wild fluctuations in system latency.
you know
Because
what?
I mean, I watch Gamers Nexus at 2x. Okay, I watch pretty much everything at double speed, and even at 2x with Nvidia's latency tester, they would go click, and then a couple seconds later, the character in Cyberpunk would swing. Now, granted, they were doing torture testing, like they were running 5090 level settings on the 5070. But if Nvidia's hype was anywhere remotely close to being true of getting 4090 performance on a 5070, that wouldn't happen. And that I think that just proves right there Nvidia was lying to you. It's more than hype. They're just like straight up lying, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, and the lie here is with, and we were all waiting for this, was the 5070, giving a 4090 performance. And
Yeah,
that
it
is
definitely isn't.
like, even with frame gen on, it's just not true.
Yeah,
And I'm sure somewhere Nvidia will, come out and, they may just say nothing because they know they're wrong. They're blatantly wrong. But again, this goes back to teaching people, don't believe first party reviews.
mm-hmm.
Now, I say that, and I think we were super excited last episode about the 9070,
Mm-hmm.
and I am very eager to see, because it's the 50 series. You had a total hype, and it was all the way up here from what everybody said.
Yep.
And then it went like this, and then you started having questions, and then all of a sudden you saw reviews, and the 5080 came out, and it went poof, and it was just gone.
Yep.
And you're like, what happened? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, reality set in, and we realized that it's crap.
Yeah.
And at this point, I sort of think that the whole 50 series is just, I think it's crap. I think it's,
Especially for the price. Good grief. I mean, they're
I know,
it's
it doesn't make any sense.
no, and so they're giving us marginal improvements over the 40 series and charging us 25-50% more. Like, where are we getting the value from? Because fake frames don't give us value.
I really think that what I'm hoping for is to see strong enough performance from the 9070 that we will see some very attractive people, a lot of interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, and I've said this before, and I mean this. You start looking at a lot of the videos on comments of people talking about the 9070, and are a lot of comments of people who are really upset about how crappy of a launch this is from Nvidia's perspective.
Yep.
That you will absolutely see people switching from green to red.
Yep. Well, I mean, there are people who are in the market right now who need a GPU but can't get one because there's no stock from Nvidia. But AMD has had stock in retailers' back rooms, which tend to be fairly tiny, for what, 2 months now? Almost 3 months? And we don't know how much stock there is, but some of the stuff I've heard on some of these rumor sites is that the amount of stock is more than all of the cards that Nvidia has shipped globally for 50 series so far. And that's
Well,
already been in the stores, like ready to go.
um, even then, and this is from Hardware Unboxed. This is from people who know the stock levels of
Mm-hmm.
what's going to be available on launch day. Okay, um, but this was a tweet from Hardware Unboxed. If you see a 9070 XT sold out shortly after release, it will mean that retailers have sold more 9070s than all of the GeForce 50 series GPUs combined. That tells you how much a paper launch Nvidia had,
Yeah,
but that also means I firmly believe that our stock levels for AMD will not be bad.
right.
I don't think you have to be the top three in line at Micro Center to get a 9070 XT. Um, well, I think that your local Micro Center probably has. I would guess probably 150, maybe 200 per store at launch, maybe even
Mm,
more.
okay. So decent stock.
I think decent stock, but I also believe that so many people are wanting an upgrade because I believe that at this point you've got a lot of people on 20 and 30 series that are like, okay, I need to upgrade.
Yeah.
They bypass the 40 series for one reason or another. Um, and these are people that post COVID now need to upgrade. You've got people on 6,000 AMD series that are probably eyeing and very looking at this.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in general, if you're on a fairly strong 40 series or a decently strong 7,000 series, you're
Mm-hmm.
probably sitting there saying, I'm good. You're going to sit back and wait this one out.
Yeah.
Um, because the honest truth is if I've got a 7900 XT or a 7900 XTX, I'm probably looking saying, okay, yeah, I can get some ray tracing performance, and if I'm on an XT, maybe I can get some raster improvement,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not worth it because I need to just let my card run at this point.
Right.
Um, but you've got everybody who's still in the 30 series is like, because at this point, like if you're on a 3080 Ti, you're struggling because
Yeah.
at 10 gigs, your VRAM is the problem.
Yep.
It's not your graphics card, it's your VRAM that's the issue.
Well,
And
and the thing for 30 series is the VRAM is getting reasonably cheap. It might actually, like, if you have a repair shop that does discrete hardware repair, it's not super hard to change out those memory chips on those 3080s. Maybe shops could start doing upgrades for, a couple $100. Be cheaper than buying a new card and you get a lot of life out of it. Especially
I
since the
don't.
cards are out of warranty now.
Well, I think that you'll have some people who will look at that as attractive. I think the vast majority of people won't.
Yeah.
Um, let's say, what, I'm just going to get a new one, and the new one's faster and it has more features, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, but again, this is Nvidia's tactic from the beginning, is to make it so that your 1080 Ti doesn't last. That they regretted the 1080 Ti so much, and that now every generation is like, we can't make it that good.
Yep.
Because the honest truth is again, going back to the 50 series, 50, if the 70 series had 16 gigs for both of them,
Mm-hmm.
and the 80 series had 24 gigs, and then you had 32 for the 90 series, it would have made logical sense. And we know Nvidia had boards, and even to the point where they actually have physical boxes from AIBs
Mm-hmm.
showing 24 gig 80 series.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they pulled back on that for one reason or another. Um,
I
Now,
mean, heck,
with
even
that being,
20 gig would have been an improvement. But yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think so. I mean, the it will be very interesting to see the memory capacity of the 60 series. And
I'll bet there'll be 8 gig cards. I would almost put money on it. Maybe 10 if you're lucky.
at this point, all I can say is if it's not 16 gigs, it's not worth my money.
No, I agree.
These days, because if you buy an 8 gig, I mean, it just seems stupid.
Yeah, you're
And it
not
is.
really playing games.
That might be a way for them to kick people into like a 5060 Ti that has 16. But
Hmm.
again, how much of a kick in the nuts that is for all the people who bought a 5070.
5070? Yeah. Oh, good grief.
I
Well, we
mean,
got
the
a
problem
5060
is
Ti,
that like
and yeah, sorry,
there's a
5070s.
chance. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to really gimp down the 60 Ti so it doesn't overrun the 4070, the
Hmm.
5070.
Hmm.
And again, it's just pointing out the flaws, but this is like this is Nvidia, how they've screwed this, and they've continued to screw gamers.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end of the day, they just don't care.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
what they
Well,
do, what they're trying so hard to make GeForce non-AI. They don't want you to use this for AI. They want you to use this as gaming,
hmm,
and they're trying so hard. And the VRAM is the absolute thing because it's like, sure, you can have 32 gigs RAM, give us $2,000,
right.
you know, and you know they wouldn't dare put that on an 80 series because that's only $1,000.
Right.
So
So they
I
raised the
don't know.
price on the 80 series and kept the VRAM the same, which again, it's a bad deal. And so, I think we were talking about this a little bit before the show. I was doing a lot of thinking in my thinking spot. And
You were thinking on the can again?
well, I mean, what else am I gonna do? I can't really like play games because I don't bring my phone into the bathroom with me. But you know, I was thinking that if Nvidia had actually played the game on the consumer side better, I think they would have been a far more profitable company. Because if you think about it, the people who tend to do hardware procurement and specking out, these large system deployments tend to be, not always, but they tend to be people like you and me who are also gamers at home. They buy the consumer hardware. They enjoy the consumer side of PC building, and they tend to be the decision makers on what hardware companies buy. And if you're getting screwed at home by Nvidia, does that make you more likely or less likely to want to buy or recommend Nvidia to your employer to buy for their data center stuff?
I don't know. All I can say is that it is clear that there were multiple chances for Nvidia to kind of do a proper launch. They know how to launch a product.
Yeah.
Um,
This is
they
probably the
they
paperest of paper launches that I've ever seen. Because
and
we're,
in all honesty, this is probably Nvidia's worst launch.
yeah. No,
Like
well,
I go back to like the worst reviewed cards, like the FX 5900 Ultra,
mm-hmm.
like the hair blower.
Yep.
Those fans that were just horridly
Wah!
loud.
Yeah.
Um, and were still slow. Um, that was just a bad product.
Yeah.
This is not just a bad. This isn't a horrible product. It's not bad. It's not the generational gap that people were hoping for,
Especially for the price. Yeah.
but the problems, the lying on the marketing, that's without a doubt straight up lies.
Yeah.
Um, the missing hardware, that they
Mhm.
thought was just going to go away, which they should have. The missing ROPs I'm not upset about. It's that Nvidia had the opportunity and knew about this, and rather than just coming out and said, "Look, we found this defect. We know how to fix it. We fixed it. But you need to run this tool, and if you have less ROPs than you're supposed to, send it back. We'll completely replace it."
Mhm.
Like that's all they have to do.
Yep.
Um, but the notion is it's like you catch them, and so you lie to me, up front, and then you lie to me with the ROPS that I'm supposed to get versus what I got. You
Mhm.
lie to me that you fixed the overheating cable problem. You
Mhm.
haven't fixed that.
Made it worse, if
Absolutely haven't
anything.
fixed it. Um, and you just go look at this and say, and by the way, oh, we weren't really ready to launch this. Like, and this
Yeah.
is where this is the culmination of paper launches.
Mhm.
The 5070 is going to be such a paper launch
Oh yeah.
that of the reviewers, how many reviewers that are out there, 15 or 25, reviews go live,
Mhm.
and the vast majority of those are founders edition cards.
Yep. With plastic back plates.
Okay, but founders edition cards,
Yep.
2.5 hours before they're supposed to go on sale, they're told, oh, by the way, no founders editions of cards are going to be available
Until late
until the
March.
end of March.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's what we're told. We're
Yeah.
told wait 4 weeks for the founders edition cards.
Right.
And you've got resale distributors and resellers saying we don't have any of them and they're selling tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if that's not a paper launch, I don't know what it is.
Well, and how many of
Obviously,
these cards are going
Nvidia's
to?
having some issues and
Yep.
they don't want to admit that they're having some problems.
Yep.
They pushed this out early for no good reason. They weren't ready.
Yeah.
Um, and every which way, they have screwed up this launch.
Yep.
And the problem is that like someone in the inside is looking at this saying, "We're not ready for this." Like
Right.
someone in Nvidia's like, "Dude, this isn't. We're not going to be ready." Or
Mhm.
this is not like we need to know. We need more time. There are plenty of people who are Nvidia being like, "Yeah, this isn't cooked. This is like half baked."
Yep.
And they're like, "Send it up, and that'll do." And this is the that'll do generation for Nvidia. And I really hope, but unfortunately, because there's such a demand for graphics cards, that these will sell out. But I really hope that gamers and just general consumers
Yeah.
are just like take a step back and be like, stop buying this crap.
Yep. That's the only way we're going to fix this is if we
Stop.
stop buying it.
I mean,
And
it's simple, and or the other way around is to and this is just um, like scalpers.
yeah.
Like it's funny. I've got a couple of these scalpers. I'm not in. I'm not going to buy a 50 series. I've made that very clear. But I see these 50 series on my local Facebook, and they're all dumping, and they're all still for sale, and they're trying to get top dollar. And it's like you realize that nobody in their right mind is going to spend $1,100 for a 5070 Ti.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
See how bad of an option, and so you start seeing him back down. And I really hope that if you really want a card, just wait. Do not scalp. Just
Okay.
wait.
Wild wild conjecture on my part. What if Nvidia knew about the ROP issue, which we know they knew about the ROP issue before the cards released. But what if they knew about the ROP issue in advance and put the cards out anyway, knowing that a percentage of the cards were going to have this failure and that the scalpers had a good chance of scalping people with those cards, and those people would get no warranty feedback, plummeting the scalper market? I mean, playing devil's advocate here. Just again, wild conjecture on my part, but if you really want to screw the scalper market, having a known defect that randomly occurs on cards and getting to tell customers who got scalped on cards, sorry, you didn't buy from a valid retailer.
Now the question is, okay, and I
Yeah.
mean this on the ROP issue with the 50 series.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to be very interested to see if this problem persists in 3, 4, 5 months. Because if you still get cards that still have this problem that are coming out
Mm-hmm.
in 3 or 4 months, after you've given Nvidia plenty of time to resolve this problem, okay, and I would put out there, say, watch for the 5070 to
Mm-hmm.
see if there's any cards that make it out with fewer ROPs.
Yep.
I question, the follow-up question I have is, are we is this because these cards pass the test but are degrading over time? And
Ooh.
is that going to be, is this pointing us to saying, hey, these cards could have some problems? What if in 6, 9, 12 months we start seeing people not only missing 8 but missing 16?
Or the card just straight up dies, like the core dies.
Or what happens if you've got full ROPs
Oh,
and in 9 months you now have 8 less?
yeah.
And what
Well,
happens if in 8 months you have 8 fewer? Now,
yeah.
could this, because we look at this from a stability perspective from 13th, 14th gen Intel.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see ROPs because you can't see them. But if parts of your CPU stop working, eventually you're like, that was weird. Why'd that crash? Oh, it's supposed to be on this ROP, but that ROP doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There are some questions, and I think gamers need to be aware of this. And I would just put it this way: I'm not going to pay extra money for a card that's questionable at best.
Yeah.
The 40 series did not have this problem. They are on the same process. This is not a process issue. This, I believe, is a design issue.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
I, I
this could potentially be a design issue that came back from having to pivot on the process, because when you go
yep.
from 3 nanometer to 4 nanometer, you have to make changes and concessions,
Oh yeah.
and
I mean,
so
that's where
it could all be interrelated.
that's why I do believe that we may possibly actually see Blackwell the way it was designed for,
Mm-hmm.
because if the timing works out, you could see them release a 3 nanometer Blackwell,
Yeah.
and it will give us an idea of what they were expecting Blackwell to be.
Blackwell 2,
But
Electric Boogaloo.
instead of the 45,
Yeah.
we'll actually have the 5080 V2,
Right. Well,
which is
they
going to be a
probably
4080 Super Ti
they'd probably call it the
V16.
5085 or something. Yeah. No, right, exactly. But the thing is like, I just want to say this to anybody that's still watching, and if you are, thank you. Um, if you buy a Blackwell based card, 50 series, I don't care if it's mobile, I don't care if it's a 5060 or if it's a 5090. Check your ROPS after you install the driver. And if you see a sudden drop in performance, if like you're getting 80 frames a second in a game one day, and then all of a sudden you come back and you only got like 70, check your ROPS, because your card could be potentially having issues. Because we don't know if this is an instantaneous failure or if it's a failure over time. Nvidia hasn't told us really anything other than they knew about it before the news came out. And so watch out. Please don't buy from scalpers, because you won't get a warranty. And if you do lose ROPS on a scalp card, odds are you're gonna be hosed. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to buy a
if
new card.
if we see consistent reporting of missing ROPs,
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe that there will probably be some people who choose not to buy these cards used.
Yeah. No, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, I
Um,
at the moment, I'm not going to trust a 50 series card.
and I'm
Now
going to
that
be,
might change.
and I'll put it this way: if we see people who have fully functional cards and they lose ROPS, that is such a big deal.
Hmm.
Such a big deal. That goes to say it was working and then I lost performance.
Yeah. And see,
Um,
if I were someone like Gamers Nexus, I would be sitting up a system in a corner on a test bench and just have it continually running stress tests 24/7, and to see if, you can get it to lose ROPS and lose performance over a certain period of time. Granted, it's an expensive proposal. You're talking about building a full system and throwing a
well,
$2,000 graphics card in it,
no.
but
I mean,
you
but
know,
that's simple because you've got the Gamers Nexus has the how many people have missing ROPS.
yep,
You could buy one of those
he's bought a
and
couple
throw it in.
already. Yeah,
Yeah, and just throw it in and be like, okay, let's see if we can get it to lose more.
yeah. And I would definitely do that. And so if you have a card that's lost ROPS, you have a similar card because they do have the Founders 5090 that they got as a review sample. Granted, it is a review sample, so it might be one of those cherry picked parts that they sometimes send out to reviewers. Because it's very interesting that none of the reviewers reported lost ROPS on their review cards. So again, that kind of confirms Nvidia knew about this. And so, I would just say watch out for the possibility of cards in the future coming up with missing ROPS. And from what it seems like, they're going to die in sets of 8.
Um,
So,
Look,
you'll,
the honest truth is, don't buy anything, don't pre-order anything.
nope.
Wait for tomorrow's reviews to come out,
Yep.
see what the AMD cards look like, and then the fun piece that I am going to be very interested in the AMD side is
Mm-hmm.
not where they go. I want to see how good of an overclocker that sucker is,
Right?
because at 340 watts of power,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the board partners are putting on 3 8 pins,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to allow you to have, let's see, 75 plus 350 plus another 75. So that's going to be 490 ish.
Something like that, yeah. Depends on how
If
much it
your
pulls from the
max
PCI Express
TDP on
bus.
the overclocked model is 340,
Yup.
you are going to have a lot of power to overclock. So, with that being
Mm.
said, we're gonna have a special episode tomorrow to talk about AMD. We talked about
Yep.
and GeForce tonight. So tomorrow we will talk, and as much as this has been downer a little bit,
Right.
the hope is that tomorrow night we are going to be all giddy with our Radeon. I need a Radeon hat. I have a GeForce hat. I do not have a Radeon hat.
Yeah, I don't really have a Radeon hat either. I'm gonna have to see if I can get my hands on one. But yeah, I think on that bombshell, we will call it a show for this evening. Thank you all for watching, and do remember to like and comment, subscribe, do all the magical algorithmic goodness down in the doobly-doo below. And until next time, which looks like it's gonna be tomorrow, have fun storming the castle.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.